Welcome back to Rad BMX Builds. On this episode, we're going to do a little frequently asked questions. So over the next several minutes, I'm going to pull some of those questions that I've received fairly often and do my best to answer those. So we'll jump right in. My number one most asked question, hands down, is where do I get all my parts? Where do I get them from? I have a lot of parts. I have storage bins full of parts, but where do you get them? And that is answered in the very first YouTube video that I did. So that link will be at the bottom of this video, and I highly recommend, if you haven't seen that, go watch that video, and I give a very detailed answer on where I get most of my parts. Second question I get is, how much is my bike worth? So as a business, I'm not going to give you an estimate of what your bike is worth. I don't do that because a bike is simply worth what you're comfortable selling it for and what the buyer is comfortable paying for it. Yes, it may have cost you X amount of dollars to purchase it, maybe restore it, buy parts for it, and that should be taken into consideration, but that is not something for me to decide. That's something for you to decide if it's your bike. Another question that I frequently get is, will I restore a bike for you? Right now, I'm not in the business of doing restorations for people, nor am I in the business of doing a custom build for you. That's not what my shop does. What I like to do is find projects, build the bikes the way I would want to build them, show the progress on Instagram for content and for you to see, and then maybe build it up a little bit so you can get an idea what it's going to turn out like, and then sell that bike myself. So I am not taking on anyone else's projects, and the reason for that really is I don't have the time. I have a lot of bike builds in the works, a lot of bike builds sitting in storage that are waiting for me to get to them. And I just don't want to take the time, and you have a vision of how you want it, but more often than not, those parts that you may picture in your head just aren't readily available. And the bike may not turn out how you pictured it. So I'm just going to build bikes the way I want to build them, mostly custom builds. And my theory behind that is, when you would buy a bike or get a bike when you were younger, most people would not leave that bike alone. They wouldn't leave it stock. They would go to their local BMX store and they would buy parts for it and they would customize it. You would get cool anodized parts. Maybe you'd swap out the wheels. But what I like to do when I picture how I want to build a bike is, if I were to get a bike, let's just say a GT Performer, what I would want to do to that GT Performer if I had a very big allowance. So I would picture how I want it and transform that bike, whether it means powder coating it or putting new wheels on it, new brakes, new whatever. And I would transform that bike into how I would want it to be built. And that's what I do, and that's how I sell my bikes. Next question, how do I sell my bikes? I get this quite a lot. I typically don't put them on the website at www.radbmxbuilds.com. And the reason for that is it takes a while to put it on the website, and then when it sells, and it's just a process. It's very easy for me to just put my bikes on Instagram. I currently have about 22,000 followers on Instagram, so the visibility on there is very high. And like I said a little bit earlier, I tend to show pictures of the progress of the build, and then people will get excited about that, and they will DM me when they're interested in it if they want to buy it. So, to answer the question, if there is a bike you see on my Instagram page that you want to buy, you DM me and we will work something out. I typically do not sell a bike until it is completed because, again, I'm not exactly sure which parts will end up on the bike. So please wait until right about when the bike is completed so you see all the parts and I'm comfortable with the parts that are going to be on it. And then you can DM me and we'll work out a price. Now remember, this is a business. I do have to pay taxes, so there is going to be a fair price on the bike. But I promise you, I'm not price gouging people. This is not eBay. However, if it did end up on eBay, there are fees, and you do have to account for those eBay fees that they take from you in the sale of an item. So I will sell a bike at a little more than what I paid for it and put into it. And I think that's fair. I get the enjoyment out of you getting a custom bike that I built and reliving some of those memories that you had as a child or that you wanted as an adult. These bikes typically end up in man caves or collections. I don't recommend taking these 35-year-old bikes that are completely redone and heading out to your local skate park and destroying it. Go buy a new school bike for that. These are really nostalgic pieces that should be in collections, and for people to just have that nostalgic memory of when they were younger. A lot of these bikes spawn those memories, and that's what I'm doing in this company, and our motto is building memories. Another question I get is, what other things do I sell? Well, for soft goods, I have Rad BMX Builds pad sets made by Flight. These are custom pads that I had made, and they come in black and a very limited amount of white. These are fantastic quality. Flight's been around for a very long time, and I really enjoyed working with them to make these limited run pad sets. I'm not sure if I'm going to do another pad set. If I do, it will be a different design, so you will not be able to get these after they're gone. I still have quite a few black sets and only a very, very few amount of white sets. So I really haven't even listed the white ones because I may use those on future builds, but if you're just dying to get a set, go ahead and reach out to me and we'll see what we can do for you. What else have I sold? Well, so I took the old Dyno UL plate and I duplicated it and put my logo on it. So this is basically the exact same plate, except it says Rad BMX Builds across the top. These sold very fast. They were a little expensive to make because I used a third-party person that was having someone make them for them, so the profits were just about nothing and the cost was fairly high to make them. So I did a limited run of these, and I'm sorry, but currently they're sold out. If there's a high demand for these or a different type of number plate, like maybe bringing back some race plates that are dyno, let me know, and maybe we will reconsider and do another run of some number plates. A lot of people seem to really enjoy those. Now the obvious one, at radbmxbuilds.com/merch, you can buy shirts which come in black, white, colored logo, non-colored logo, hoodies in black or white, and you can get hats, which you've seen me wear. The white with the colored logo, the black with the colored logo, and my military tribute line, which is green and black with a black logo, and a green shirt with a black logo. Please go check that out. There's also decals available there on that site. And if you're on Instagram, just go ahead and view my store, and that's probably the fastest way to get to that link. These are made by a third-party person, so they get the order, and they package it up and they ship it, and they're really fast and the quality is outstanding. I wear this stuff all the time, not just to market my business, because it's comfortable and I think it's pretty awesome. Another question that I get are, what parts do I have for sale? Honestly, I very rarely sell parts. I don't like to sell parts. Most of the parts I have are typically used in future builds. So I don't want to sell something that is really hard to come by and then need it later on and I don't have that part. So, I don't know, I have, like, for instance, these old school ODI mushroom bearing caps. I have been collecting these for quite a while. I have a lot of them, but I really enjoy using them. They're great for an accent color, and I don't plan on selling them. They are hard to find, and when I do, I try to scoop them up. But now I have just about every single color that they've made, and it's just a personal little collection, and I like to use them on some of my builds. So I typically will only sell an entire bike unless I discover that I bought or have a part that I know I'm not going to use, which is rare. And if so, I will go ahead and post that on Instagram and sell that. But hey, I kind of like to hoard the parts, so here they are, and they're here to look at, they're here to see, but I'm not selling parts. I'm only in the business of trying to sell completed, custom-built bikes. I also get asked often, how much do your bikes go for? That's a great question. Honestly, it's impossible to answer because every bike is so different. You're not going to pay the same for a 1996 Dyno VFR as you would for a 1986 Dyno Comp 2. They're two completely different bikes. So my answer is it really depends on the bike, the model of the bike, and the parts used on that bike. So the rarer it is, or the higher in demand that bike is, it will go for a little bit more money. Honestly, building a freestyle bike is about twice as expensive as building a race bike. So turnaround time on a race bike is pretty fast. I can get the parts for it and build it. Whereas a freestyle bike, I may be collecting parts for weeks, months, some of them even years, depending on the bike. The purple GT Performer that I built, I put together in a day, but I've been holding on to some of those parts for about 2 years till I got the right bike to put them on. So if I had sold those parts, this bike may have never been built, especially the way I envisioned it, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. So how much do bikes go for? I don't know, roughly on the low end, $700 would be about a custom bike build that I could do on a low-end race bike, up to, I don't know, maybe $3,000-$4,000 if it's a very rare freestyle bike that I put a lot of money and parts into. So you're really just going to have to ask, how much is this specific bike for? One question I get is, what bikes do I have for sale? If you are interested in a bike, I'm more than happy to take whatever time it takes to help you out. But I need to know, what bike are we talking about specifically? And please don't ask me to provide you a list of all the bikes that I have for sale and send you a picture of every bike that I have for sale. Every bike that I have for sale is available to view on Instagram. So please go to the Instagram page and go to the actual page and take a moment and just scroll through and see what bikes I currently have available for you. If there is a bike that you particularly like, maybe it is the purple GT Performer, ask me, hey, how much are you asking for the purple GT Performer? And then I will be able to effectively answer you. Because if you just say, hey, how much for that bike? If you follow me on Instagram, I post a lot of bikes. I don't know which bike you're talking about, and I'm not trying to be rude in any way, but I need you to be a little bit more articulate and give me some something to go off of, like the white dyno maybe would even be a bit better than just the last bike that I might have posted, because by the time I get around to reading your question there, I may have posted 2 or 3 white bikes. A lot of you often ask where I'm located. Currently, I'm in Newport Beach, California, down near the Balboa Peninsula area. So a lot of you wondered, hey, where are you located? Because I've seen you in Texas, I've seen you in Salt Lake City. Let me take a moment to explain. In 2018, I retired and my wife and I traveled for about 3 years. I originally opened my business in Boerne, Texas, and I ran my business out of there for well over a year. Last summer, we spent the entire summer in Salt Lake City visiting family, and then we moved down here to Newport Beach. We are here and will be here for quite some time, so this is now the new home of Rad BMX Builds. So I operate and ship out of Newport Beach, California, and I'm sorry for the confusion, but we were traveling, having a great time, and just enjoying life, going around the country, which gave me a great opportunity to meet some of you and find some really cool bikes and parts that I would purchase as I traveled around searching Facebook Marketplace and all these other places that I've talked about in my first YouTube video. So I hope that clears it up. If you do want to buy something in person, if you're local, I do not want you coming to my house, so I will meet you in a public place, and we could show bikes and sell parts if I'm selling those, and especially sell you the bike, and we can avoid the shipping. If not, I do ship, and it'll come out of Newport Beach, California. Another question is, do I ship bikes? Absolutely. I do ship bikes. I purchase bike boxes brand new. So your bike will be packaged and shipped in a brand new cardboard box. I use pool noodles, bubble wrap, and all kinds of stuff to help protect your new purchase. And I use shipbikes.com to ship them, which is transported by FedEx with a tracking number, and the bike will be insured. If you buy a bike from me, that is the method in which I will pack it and ship it, and I will immediately provide you with a tracking number as soon as the bike is dropped off at a FedEx location or picked up from my location. So rest assured that it's not some janky box that you're going to get. The bike should not be damaged in any way. And if it is, that's on FedEx, and we will work that out through FedEx claims. But your bikes will be very well taken care of on my end. They will have to be slightly disassembled. Pedals, bars, front wheel, those things have to come off in order to fit in the box. But if you have any tools whatsoever, these are very easy to put back together and get yourself on the road or enjoying a good display of an old school BMX bike. How many bikes do I have on hand? Well, currently where I'm at, space is pretty limited, and I have a shop with about 10 bikes inside of it. At any given time, there will be a few for sale, some being worked on, and some, honestly, I'm just not ready to sell yet. They're good for content. They're good for other things. Not all bikes are sold immediately upon completion. Some are, some aren't. So I sit on about 10 bikes here, and I still have a storage unit in Phoenix, Arizona, where I keep a pretty large amount of bikes. So when I sell these or they move on to new homes, and I get down to, a few bikes, I'll make a trip and we'll bring back a whole bunch of bikes. A lot of you would also like to know, how do I restore a bike? Well, I'm going to keep this answer fairly short because there are so many ways to restore a bike. Also in my Amazon store, which the link will be down below, you will find a whole bunch of products that I use to restore bikes, clean them, and then a bunch of products to help you shop for your BMX build. But a quick little answer to the question is, if the paint is pretty banged up and chipped, I will just go ahead and powder coat the bike. I have a powder coater that works locally, and I trust them, and they do a great job, so I have no problem powder coating a bike. Depending on the type of powder coat and color, the prices vary, and the more bikes I bring, the better deal I get. So I think it's worth it. The bike looks brand new, like it came off the showroom floor, and powder coat is very durable, and the custom colors are almost endless. Let's talk about metal. A lot of bikes get some surface rust on them, and that's no problem. You can use things like vinegar. There's some acids and things like that. I want you to do your research on that, because I'm not going to say that the way I do it is the best way or the only way, because there are several ways to clean surface rust. And I'm not afraid to take on some rusty projects as long as it doesn't get into the metal of the bike and it's only on the surface. I'm okay with restoring or powder coating or whatever. I do not re-chrome bikes. If the chrome's too bad, I consider that chrome a loss and either move on to a different project or powder coat it. I do not re-chrome. I don't have a chromer, and that is a very expensive process and probably not worth the money if you're trying to sell a bike. So if you just want to clean one up, just take some time, use the right materials, get the decals off, clean it all up, restore it, maybe use some reproduction decals or something when you're done. But that's about it with restorations, and those are my tips and tricks. Okay, a lot of you want to know, what's my favorite bike? My favorite bike is my 83 PK Ripper. I had that bike in high school and sold it when I joined the military, and it took me a long time to find another one. It is a new old stock frame and fork set that I built up from the ground up, and it's a full custom build that I wanted my way because I will never sell the bike. It's just going to be in my personal collection. So my favorite bikes are the old school PK Rippers, and I kind of lean toward the race bikes a little bit for old school personal favorites. But for freestyle bikes, if I had to pick one, some of my favorites are the GTs, of course, like everyone else, and I build several of those because they're plentiful. But if you want to be a little bit more rare, some Hutch Trick Stars are really cool. I would like to build a pink one at some point. A little Hollywood Mike Miranda throwback. I think that's a rad bike. For a little newer bikes, I honestly, I really like the Dyno VFR, NSX, or Nitros. They're all basically the same frame and fork set. You get in the early 90s versions of those, and they're great bikes. If you get the flat oval frame chisel forks, it's a great platform to build a really rad custom bike. And it's cheap. You can find them for a few $100 and then put a few $100 into them, and next thing you know, you have a really cool rider that you can just go ride around on daily, thrash on, and it's not going to break the bank. Whereas if you got a GT Performer Pro Freestyle Tour bike, you're not going to be so inclined to ride that daily or go thrash it in a skate park or on a track or anything of that nature. It just wouldn't make any sense financially. Okay, so that should answer a lot of the frequent questions that I get, and I hope it sheds some light on some things, or maybe even brought some information to you that you hadn't thought about yet. And if you have any ideas of videos that you would like to see me make, go ahead and leave a comment down below and make sure you like this video. But before we leave, I'd just like to give you a little bit of information about the business. We've been in business now for a couple of years. I've been building for a very long time. I started riding in the early 80s, and I do have a passion for this. This is not a job that I treat as a job. This is a hobby that I'm an enthusiast and I love to do. I opened this after I retired, so this isn't my sole income, so I do this more for fun and enjoyment and to bring a product to you folks that you may enjoy and to help bring back some of those memories. If I did do it on a full-time basis and had to just do it for the money, I think I would lose that enthusiasm and fun, and I don't want to do that. So in order to prevent that from happening, I'm going to keep it light, I'm going to keep it fun, and I'm just going to keep it the way I want to do it and bring you products that you enjoy. So let me know what it is you like and what you'd like to see and what you're looking for, and I can maybe gear some of my builds in that direction, and we'll have some fun together. I've been doing this, and what I want to do with it is expand. So like any business, you want to grow. I don't want to grow too much, but my end goal, my ultimate goal would be to have my own bike in my company's name, so a frame and fork set, and that's the goal for me. And I'll get there eventually, maybe by selling bikes, selling merch, selling some products. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep having fun. But I count on you guys. I count on you to subscribe to this channel and to buy the merch and keep this business going. And if you see a bike you like, maybe buy one of those too. And we can keep building these memories together. So if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe, hit the little bell, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay rad.